Does a distillery exclusive always live up to what you remembered when you've got it back home? Join me here for today's episode of the Neckpour as I get open these two distillery exclusive bottlings from the Isle of Arran Distillery, Lochranza. And we'll talk through them and my experience whilst I was there. So whilst I was on my trip to Scotland, one of the places we stopped off was the Isle of Arran. And I was able to fit in a quick distillery tour. My wife was working that day and did the dunnage and drams experience. It was an absolutely fantastic tour. Only 6 of us on it and sat in the dunnage warehouse tasting the whiskies at the end of it. Now my big worry is sat in that environment, smelling all those beautiful smells. The whiskey tasted fantastic. I absolutely loved it and brought these 2 bottles home with me. But was I marred by what a wonderful experience I was overall having? And now I'm back home in the cold light of day. Are they going to live up to that memory? So let's quit waffling. Let's get ourselves a little dram poured and I'll talk to you about it. So this one, firstly, is an Amontillado finish, 8 years old, 57%. And this one is a Madeira cask finish, 58%. This one's 7 years old. So this particular bottle was just the distillery handfill they had at the time, whereas this one was one of the exclusive 4 drams we tasted as part of the dunnage and dram experience. And again, as I probably mentioned in my other videos from Scotland, like the one up there, we did only have our rucksacks on our back. We didn't have the car or anything like that with us. So we were limited, hence why I only brought back 2 20 CLs rather than I could have bought a lot of whiskey at Lochranza. So firstly, I'll pour the Amontillado into the Arran glass. And that's this one there. Again, got a nice free glass as part of the overall tour package, which I always think is great. Plus, I like to pick up a glass everywhere I go to, just as a bit of a memory. And it's quite a nice one here, just Arran single malt. And into this plain glass, I'll pour the Madeira cask. So yeah, let's get these open. Little cork pop there. Nice little dram of that one, and I'll keep that one on that side. Whereas this one I'll keep over on this side so I don't get muddled up as to what's what. Although with quite different finishes on these, I'm not sure there'll be too much confusion going on. Much better cork pop on the Madeira finish. And this just has an amazing colour to it, this Madeira. It's almost slightly pink. It's like really rich rosé wine. It's quite amazing. Whilst it's actually in the bottle, it doesn't look that different from this, which is just your kind of classic sherry brown. But I'm hoping when I film the up close content, you'll really see just how reddish pink this one actually is. So as part of the experience as the dunnage and drams, we got a very, very quick tour of the distillery. Really interesting, and I was amazed at just how small it was. And as I talk through this little bit, I'll bang up some pictures that I took whilst I was there. It really is a craft distillery, and I'm not the hugest Arran fan, purely because I've not tried enough of their stuff. Everything I have tried, I've really enjoyed, but just their wide availability, they're on all of the websites, they're on Amazon, they're occasionally in supermarkets. I assume they're a much bigger distillery than they are. It's really, really small. And yet they put out some really, really good liquid. And yeah, really enjoyed the little tour around. Then we went through to warehouse number 4, which is their dunnage warehouse. And although it was called Dunnage and Drams, I wasn't entirely sure what we were expecting. I just thought maybe that was a name for a slightly more premium tour. And yes, it sat down on benches in the dunnage warehouse and drew with a Valinch out of 4 casks in front of us. There was a 27-year-old and a 28-year-old. One was a bourbon, one was a sherry cask, I believe. I'd have to check my photos because I took a picture of those particular casks we were trying, which is quite amazing, really, considering the distillery's only put out its first 30-year-old juice this year, and they'd been part of this tour for about 6 months now. So that's stuff almost going back to the inception of the distillery. And then there was this Madeira cask, 8-year-old, and there was another, can't remember exactly what it was, around 10 years old. So this was the youngest, or the joint youngest, of the whiskies, but it was the one that really blew me away. Although the 27 and the 28-year-old were great, you were talking like 120, 130 pounds for it in a 20 CL, and I didn't want to blow on my holiday budget on the second place we went to, so I had to pare it in a little bit. And then I'm a huge Amontillado and Manzanilla cask fan. I really like Amontillado, I really like Manzanilla. I like that drier, that salty, that more rugged sherry finish, and with such a light, beautiful spirit like Arran, I was really interested to see what that was like. As this was just the standard distillery option, had to pick a bottle of that up as well. So overall, super happy with what I got when I tried it there. But let's see what it's like now we've got it home. I think I'll start with this Madeira cask, being the slightly lighter of the two in terms of finish. But yeah, let's have a little look. This one's 58% on the nose, and it is exclusive to those that have done the dunnage and drams. You can't buy this any other way, and it might all be gone by time of filming. It's absolutely lovely on the nose. Heaps of flowers, quite grassy, and with a lovely, just sweet honey underneath it. Really, really inviting on the nose. And there's no way I would say that's 58%. You know, it's ridiculously, ridiculously well integrated. Let's give it a little sip. Loads and loads of nuts in that to me, but a kind of honey roast, like a honey roast peanut, or perhaps even, you know, a honey roast cashew, maybe slightly more opulent than the peanut. Again, married with a really nice slight black pepper on the note. Yeah, it's definitely a black pepper rather than a white pepper. It's not quite as hot. And a lovely sort of red grape, I would say. A super sweet red grape. And then on the finish, it's so long, it's so oily. It just coats the mouth beautifully well. And finishes with lots of nutmeg and cinnamon, but not as a kind of flavour, more as the smell of the spices. It's not quite as big and as powerful as tasting the spices, but more, you know, just smelling a cinnamon stick, smelling a nutmeg, smelling a cardamom pod. It's all those kind of things. It's much lighter, and then it's just so creamy as well. And overall, it's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful dram. And yeah, it's really a highlight of the holiday, actually. And I'm really pleased to say this is just as good as I remembered it being whilst I was sat there. Because again, once you've been wandering around, you've been drinking new make, you've tried other bits and bobs, everything can become you can get a bit carried away in the fun. But no, that certainly stands up to it. And then let's move on to this Amontillado, which is a much browner liquid. And now this one, I only tried it in the shop, so only out of a little plastic cup, not out of a Glencairn. So let's see what it's like. Oh wow, that is so salty on the nose. That's olive brine. Again, there's no sweetness to that on the nose at all. But it's briny and it's nutty. And there's almost a kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of here? There's almost something slightly medicinal about the smell. But in the world of whiskey, you know, medicinal is always seen as Isla, iodine, TCP, all those kind of things. It's not that. But there is something that's almost like almost a rubberiness, I want to say, actually. But yeah, brine, rubber, and loads of nuts on the nose. It's so different. It's so different. These are the same age. They were both aged in bourbon before they were finished. And just what a cask finish can do to these two whiskies is just amazing. But yeah, let's give this one a little taste. And that's everything that isn't. This is astringent. It's drying. It's oaky, it's leathery, and it might even be better. That's wonderful. That's whiskey crafted specifically for me. That's incredibly good. Again, you get that saltiness straight through. You get a real oaky dryingness, and you get all of that floor yeast thing that you get in those type of dry sherries. It's amazing. But yeah, on the palate, there's actually a massive dry sherry hit. That's the first thing that really comes across, is dry sherry, that astringency of it. There's again brininess, saltiness, and there's starting to be a little bit of leather there. And on the finish, you've got spices, but in a very savoury sense, almost like smelling like a spice rub that you would put on meat. I'd say, but not at all smoky, more kind of like a Mediterranean spice rub. Again, a wonderful oakiness and a lovely note of, again, pepper in this on the finish, which is just incredible to me. But no, I think we can safely say that just trying something in the distillery, even when you've had a couple of drams on the tasting, if you fall in love with it, I would 100% say pick it up, because I am blown away by both these bottles of whiskey, to the point I think I might get on the emails tonight, pop a quick one over to the distillery, just say, I absolutely love both of these. I know they're distillery exclusives, but can you ship me another bottle if you've still got it? Because yeah, these are two stellar whiskies and well up there for me in terms of things I've drunk this year, no matter just things I drunk whilst I was in Scotland. And yeah, stay tuned. I am wanting to do a little bit of a wrap up of the year, everything I've tasted, pick out a few choice pieces. But no, before I waffle on too much further, I would just like to say thank you so much for joining me here today. Really does mean a lot to me. If you've stuck around to this point, I do appreciate it. Drop me a like below if you've enjoyed the content. Drop me something down in the comments if you've got thoughts on anything from Arran or anything that you'd like to see me review. I'll be sure to get back to you. I do hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to be informed next time I post. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me here today. I'd love to see you again for another episode of the Neckpour, the Dregs, or just my thoughts and opinions on whiskey. And until then, I'd just like to say cheers, Sláinte, and I'll see you again.